we will in fact see a market structure bill become law here in the US before the end of the year.
Bitcoin and the entire cryptocurrency market rallying today in anticipation of the biggest piece of crypto legislation ever. Of course, now postponed potentially by this pesky government shutdown.
Do you think that is realistic, especially with everything going on Capitol Hill right now? I mean, we're in the middle of this whole government shutdown situation.
So, as Bitcoin rallies, let's look at 5 altcoins I'm buying in preparation for October and a history of government shutdowns, and what a government shutdown really means for the Bitcoin price. The longest government shutdown happened in 2018 and lasted 34 full days. We actually had our first government shutdown back in 1976 that lasted 10 days. It was a Republican president and a Democratic House and Senate. We saw many government shutdowns under Ronald Reagan. Of course, it was typically a mixed Congress and it only lasted 1 to 3 days. How does a government shutdown affect crypto? Well, let's look to 2013, 2018, and 2018. The 3 times we've seen this prior that crypto has been in existence. The first government shutdown was under Barack Obama, September 30th, 2013. It was a mixed Congress, and this government shutdown lasted 16 days. Looking back, September wingback. September 30th, 2013. Really, altcoins weren't even a thing back then. It was primarily just Bitcoin. It looks like Bitcoin dipped the week of. Obviously, a government shutdown has nothing to do with the fundamentals of Bitcoin. The dip was bought, and the rally soon followed. So, not a factor in 2013. If we look at January 19th, 2018, maybe this is more significant because Donald Trump was president. We had a Republican Congress. This one only lasted 2 days, of course. But looking at January 19th of 2018, January 19th, Bitcoin continued to dip. Of course, we know Bitcoin had just rallied tens and tens, if not hundreds of %. This was the first altcoin season, and I think Bitcoin would have dipped. Crypto was dipping either way. We were just too overvalued at the time. Plus, this government shutdown only lasted 2 days, so not a big factor in the grand scheme of things. Anyway, the very last one happened in December 21st of 2018 under Donald Trump in a Republican Congress. This one lasted 34 days. So this is more significant. And looking at December 21st of 2018, the Bitcoin price was near all-time lows, $3,000 per coin. If you bought Bitcoin during this government shutdown and held, you did well because the Bitcoin price continued to rally. And then that brings us, of course, to where we are now. We see the only big difference with this government shutdown is that we need the government. We need Congress to pass the biggest piece of pro-crypto legislation in history. This is such a big game changer, as explained the significance by Chief Legal Officer of Coinbase.
What the Clarity Act provides, and what we think the Senate counterpart will similarly provide, is a simple, even if not perfect, but simple way for people to understand which tokens may fall under the jurisdiction of the Securities and Exchange Commission, which tokens are better understood and treated as commodities that fall under the jurisdiction of the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And overall, we will finally have spot market authority at the federal level for digital assets for the very first time. that's critically important in order to resolve long-standing questions of not only which federal agencies have oversight of this market, but the relationship between the federal government as a whole and state governments that have also attempted to regulate in this area. So there are a lot of open questions that remain regarding the proper rules for crypto. Clarity provides many, if not all, of those rules for us.
The big banks are trying to fight the passing of that. They're essentially trying to rewrite some of the rules that were passed bipartisanly in the Genius Act, stablecoin bill, saying individuals, you and me, shouldn't receive yield or rewards on our stablecoins, even though they do. This is the big banks trying to retain their monopoly on money on yield.
You know, when the Genius Act passed in July on a bipartisan basis, it was very clear that rewards were an important part of the financial consideration that belonged to consumers and investors, and really were an important mechanism for making sure that they would enjoy the benefits of their participation in these crypto networks. It's unfortunate to see the banks want to relitigate this issue, to reopen a question that was resolved squarely in the favor of our customers, which was to say that they are entitled to these rewards and that they should enjoy the benefits of them.
So, even if worst case, let's say that this government shutdown beats the old record, Trump's old record of 34 days. Let's say Trump maybe has more power now, and he's going to hold this maybe 50 days. That would push the passing of the market structure bill from the end of October, maybe into Christmas, actually. Maybe into January of 2026. So long for Bitcoin to explode? I mean, really, if it's so obvious, why isn't Bitcoin going higher faster? I loved this explanation from Tom Lee, explaining the real reason why the Bitcoin price isn't moving. This clip is from maybe 6 weeks ago. It's as relevant today as it ever was, and things are only more bullish today.
We know Bitcoin ETFs are the most successful product launch in history. And then someone says, well, if you're going to collect that much money, Bitcoin goes to the moon. But it turns out Bitcoin's risen, but it's kind of churned. I think what happened is a couple things. One is a lot of these ETFs may have been receiving in-kind exchange. So people have their crypto keys, give it to the ETF provider, and then they just stepped up their basis. So that's not going to push up the price of Bitcoin. It adds to their AUM.
A wash.
Yes, it's a wash. And the second is that the ones who aren't involved in ETFs, but maybe they have $10 Bitcoin. We have clients that have bought Bitcoin at $100, and now it's $100,000. They're not looking to, they don't care if Bitcoin goes to a million. They are probably sellers at around 100,000. So we're churning the base now because 95% of the institutional world doesn't own Bitcoin, but a very significant portion of Bitcoin holders are sitting on huge gains. So I think this is the churn that's happening in Bitcoin now.
Bitcoin at $100,000 per coin. Such a psychological level. That's why we saw huge churn and burn buyers into sellers. Sellers into buyers at just under $100,000 per coin and just over $100,000 per coin. Weak hands are selling to strong hands. Once we can clearly break this churn, I expect a big move. And case in point, Bloomberg is now reporting that Vanguard, which has 50 million clients, they said no to the Bitcoin ETFs, offering it to their 50 million clients before. They are now considering offering their clients Bitcoin and altcoin products because it was hard to ignore the astounding success.
If you're a Vanguard investor and you want to buy Bitcoin ETFs, you don't want to go to another platform. And nearly every major platform now offers Bitcoin ETFs. So I feel like this is a sign of times, a big shift, but still, we're not sure. But when we talked to Vanguard, they said they're listening to clients, they're talking about it. So again, they're opening the window by a little.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what it sounds like is they saw demand from clients,
yes,
and they want to make sure that clients stay on their platform to do what they want.
Don't wander off the ecosystem, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yes. Eric Baltunas, again, he was the one who I talked to for this story. He said that, if Bitcoin ETFs weren't as successful, we may not be seeing this. But it's so hard to ignore the astounding success. I mean, altogether, the cohort has around $142 billion in assets. 80 billion of those is from BlackRock. 20 billion alone came this year. So you don't even see the demand abating. And with the SEC now, you might see more cryptocurrency ETFs to come. And to close the door on that money-making big, like it's just lavishing capital, investors lavishing capital into these ETFs is a big, maybe, mistake, according to some.
I wonder to how much of a role the CEO, Salim Ramji, plays here in Vanguard's not changing his mind, but being a little bit more open to the idea of crypto and blockchain.
Definitely big. I'm glad you brought that up because Salim Ramji, he's a BlackRock veteran. To many, he was one of the people in charge or led the charge for the IBIT to launch. So he has expressed openness with blockchain and Bitcoin, and he's the first outsider to ever become the CEO of Vanguard. So this is definitely, potentially according to insiders, we don't have proof yet.
Is it a little risky? Because in just 20 seconds here, if for some reason we see a widespread decline in crypto asset prices, people could say, hey, why did you let us do this?
Could be, but that's the beauty of investing. You give people the choice to make that for themselves.
And looking at Solana, there are now more than 1 billion accounts on Solana. So the fundamentals of Sol trending up. We also see that Sana reached $100 billion in sustained market cap faster than any tech company in history. So what took Google 8 years? What took Tesla 23 years? Sana did in 4.5 years. And notice how the mainstream media is starting to report on Bitcoin and Sana more favorably.
Well, I think now a lot of people understand what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin, it's digital gold. People understand there's only going to be 21 million of them. I think people have now started to understand why that's really important. And I think that the way I always think about it is you've got Bitcoin, the asset, and Solana is the infrastructure. So Solana is that infrastructure that is always on the internet that allows you to transfer money around the world, and it allows you to essentially wherever you are, if you've got an internet connection, then you've got access to a wallet, and gets you on financial rails around the world. So we've got Bitcoin the asset and Solana's the infrastructure.
Thank you for watching my video so far. Please also watch my previous videos. For up-to-date news on cryptocurrencies, please subscribe to my channel and like the video. If possible, tell me in the comments what token you have saved for the upcoming bull run. Goodbye until next video.